I'm Piercy Janewell, and you're listening to Unsubscribed. Every episode, I sit down with business leaders to help you question everything you thought you knew about marketing. If you enjoy this show, please do subscribe and leave a review on YouTube or your favorite podcast player. Now, on to this episode. My guest today is Jay Schwedelson. You might know him from his witty marketing posts you see on your LinkedIn feed or speaking at events like Inbound or Marketing Profs. Jay is a marketing expert and entrepreneur, and he's got several businesses, including subjectline.com, where they have tested more than 15 million subject lines. He's the founder of the world's largest email marketing event, the Guru Conference, and is currently the CEO of an agency called Outcome Media. Welcome to the Unsubscribe podcast, Jay.
I am so fired up to be here. Pierce, you are like a rock star, so I appreciate the invite, and I know we're going to have fun today.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this episode as well, because I just want to say, out of everyone today in business that I follow, you really bring the entertainment factor to what you do, and your content stands out. It's great. How do you do that, and why do you think entertainment is important in marketing content?
You know, somewhere along the way, and I actually think it happened during the whole COVID thing, I was like, I think everyone is so wanting to connect with other people on a real human level. And, you always hear, B2B doesn't mean boring to boring. And I kind of live by that. And I think you see it almost in content out there. Like if you made two videos and you were going to post them, and one is like super designed with like a green screen or whatever, and one is just like your phone where you pointed at yourself, and you posted both, the one where you're pointing at yourself is going to crush the other one, because everyone's sick of like just this like boring stuff. We just want to be real. So that's where I try to come at it, every single day. I don't know.
It's funny that you say that, because if I think back of all the LinkedIn posts that I've done, I think the one that got the most engagement ever was a selfie I did of myself and my business partner at the Adobe Summit in a bar. And like, I didn't even think about it. I looked the next day like, wow, I did not think that content was going to blow up.
Totally. And it's also about relating to what's going on at this very moment, whether that's, in pop culture or in what we're talking about it. People just want to know like real now, what are you thinking? And it's hard to be transparent. It's hard to be, kind of out there and sort of vulnerable, but, it makes you feel more connected. And in this disconnected world, that's important.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question. Why is it that marketers have such a hard time with this? And you touched on it a little bit there. Is it the risk taking? Is it that, stepping outside of the status quo, all of the above? Why can't everyone make entertaining content?
I think everyone posts things and emails things that, fit in certain lanes. And they think that this is what you have to do. You have to do a webinar this way. You have to have a boring ebook that nobody's going to read, right? You have to put posts out there that are kind of in a certain tone. And those are the ones that nobody cares about, so it's getting comfortable with being yourself. I think if I gave myself any business advice, I would tell myself earlier on in my life, just be yourself as much as you can be, and people gravitate, towards that. Everybody's got a fun story. Everybody's interesting. Everyone's got funny stuff going on in their lives, and it's just a matter of getting comfortable and sharing that. And I think that's how you win, for me at least.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about your process, because hey, I'll be the first to admit we have made boring content at NAC, right? And I think that we can make it more entertaining. I've seen some of the posts that you do on LinkedIn. One of them, you posted about the new Netflix show Wednesday. I don't know if this was your biggest post ever, but I think it had something insane, like 65,000 likes.
Right.
What is your process when it comes to LinkedIn, or do you have one? Like, how do these posts come about?
That's a great question. So I'll tell you, I'll be totally real with what I found is that Monday through kind of Wednesday, pretty much people are really focused on real work stuff, right? They want to see, okay, content that is going to help them move the ball forward. So we try to post stuff that is a tip or a tactic that somebody could try in their marketing efforts. As you get closer to the weekend, people's minds start to shift, and they're more interested in kind of like entertainment type stuff. And so what I generally do is I'll be sitting on my couch and I'm like, okay, what's the biggest thing right now in pop culture, whatever it is, right? So Wednesday Addams was a couple weeks ago the biggest thing in pop culture. And I said, okay, what's going on with the Wednesday Addams show? And I literally sat on my couch in 5 minutes. I'm like, oh wow, they're promoting in a really cool way. Let's post this. Or even, the Grammys were just on, and you see, Ben Affleck and Jennifer being miserable, right? And just knowing that everybody talked about that, you're like, okay. So sitting on my couch, I'm like, let's make a post, tie it to business, and post that, because when you can be in the moment, it seems to resonate the most. And don't overthink it. Just get out there and do it. And the most important thing that I've concluded is with all content. Because eventually you want people to know about your business, what you do for a living. You don't want to be a clown, right? So I live by, and Gary Vee has promoted this a lot, where you give, you give, you give, you give, and then you ask. Like, you give a lot for asking for nothing, and then you kind of sift in a couple of, this is, by the way, this is what I do for a living. Maybe we should work together. But primarily you're just giving. And that's been a good path, for me. I don't know what you see out there.
Yeah, no, I love that idea of figuring out what is in the now. What are
Yes.
people talking about, and how can you inject your own, something interesting, something unique, something helpful, something
Yeah.
funny, uh, and also what's in the now, both from what's popular, what are people talking about, and what is your audience doing? Because to your point, maybe they're not in the mood to laugh on a Monday morning. Maybe
Oh,
they're
yeah.
like, yeah, I got to get some work done here.
Well, I'll tell you an example. So I have a newsletter. And so I always ask people in my newsletter, like, what TV shows are they watching and all this stuff. So I got flooded with people telling me they were watching a show. I can't, I'm about to say this, called MILF Manor. And it's about this show where these moms go on a reality show and they don't realize that their sons are all on it, and they all have to date each other's sons. And so I said, okay, I got to try it, because I got like 50 emails about MILF Manor. It was the worst, most disturbing show I've ever seen. It's on TLC, which is also weird. And it's just like you realize that everybody's just kind of, a human out there, and we're all sharing funny stuff. And it makes it a lot more enjoyable in terms of your work life. I don't recommend that show.
But yeah, that's it, right? We are all humans, marketers, marketing to
Yes,
humans for sure.
that's exactly right.
So we've been talking about social quite a bit here.
Yeah.
2023 is what are the channels you're seeing that are most effective? What kind of content is resonating?
When we're in a difficult economy, it might even get more difficult. And when we head into a difficult economy, what we see is that email becomes the linchpin. And the reason being is when marketers are like, oh, we got to tighten budget, right? It costs a good deal of money to run a paid social campaign. It costs a lot of money to run paid search campaigns, or programmatic display campaigns, or content syndication programs. But in order to scale up and do more of email, it's really very nominal cost, right? So it becomes, in a difficult economy, it becomes the channel that marketers do more with and send out more, which of course makes it harder to have our messaging stand out that we're all sending out. So it is critical to up your game. What can you do in the subject line that's going to make your emails get open? What type of content is resonating? You can't just roll with the old stuff. So email in a difficult economy is the channel to focus on, but it's more difficult than normal.
Hmm. And you may be like the world's expert on subject lines. Probably no one has looked at more subject lines than subjectline.com. What would you say are kind of the biggest learnings that you've come across having analyzed all of these? And maybe for people who might not know what subjectline.com is, could you explain what that is?
Yeah, sure. Subjectline.com is a 100% free site and tool. It's not incredibly complex. You go there, you put in a subject line, and it runs it against hundreds of different rules based on the latest trends and data that we see about what you may or may not want to try in your subject line to make sure that you get the best possible, the highest engagement, the most number of people opening up your emails. And in your subject line, when we're talking about offer emails, so let's put your newsletters to the side for a second. Let's put your transactional emails to the side. Let's say you have an offer of some kind. The two things that are the most important thing that you put in your subject line that dictate more than anything else that will get open. The first is some form of urgency, not the word urgent, but some form of urgency, meaning human nature is we don't want the thing that's going to always be available. We want the thing that may not be there, in a couple of days, in a week, or a month. And so when you could put in your subject line some version, some form of time, 2 days left, ends today, last chance, okay? And even if, let's say, your offer doesn't end, you still want to have subtle urgency, like don't miss out. And it's grabbing that millisecond of attention when somebody's scrolling through, like, wait a minute, what is this? I don't want to miss out if it's something I'm interested in. So that sense of urgency is the number one thing. But the number two thing is this idea of it being just for that person. When you can tell the person very fast that this email is for them and not for everybody else, it resonates massively. What do I mean by that? So let's say you are a business marketer. You put in the subject line, let's say you were marketing to HR professionals, just for HR professionals. No, what CFOs need to know, just for email marketers. If I sent that email to you, Pearson, and said just for email marketers, like, whoa, that's me. I'm an email marketer. You're going to open it up, right? You can also personalize in the subject line with things besides for just their job function or title. You could put their company name, right? Is NAC at risk with a question mark? You get that email, you're opening it up. Personalization goes well beyond the name, and being able to tell the person who they are, whether it's their company name, their job function. Maybe it's a stage in life, right? Did you just start a new business? Are you a small business owner? Are you a new homeowner? When you tell the person who they are in that subject line, that is a massive determining factor to getting that engagement.
I love those tips. Urgency, personalization. I think, yeah, we definitely hear the same kind of things in our annual email benchmark study. And one question we always get from every email marketer: emojis in the subject line. What are your thoughts on that, Jay?
I'm a huge believer in emojis in the subject line. And let's break that down for 1 second. When you say the word emoji, instantly you think of like my teenage kids and it being stupid. And yeah, I don't want to use emojis. That's embarrassing. I'm going to get fired. No. What you really need to take a step back and be like, okay, this emoji is just a graphic symbol that's going to allow my email to stand out when people are scrolling through their email. On the consumer side, it's a no-brainer. Obviously, use emojis, test emojis. They work incredibly well. Avoid things like the eggplant and the peach. Don't be an idiot, right? On the business side, though, you're like, I can't use emojis. Well, first of all, 94% of all receiving email clients now can render emojis fine. So they work great and they perform really well. If we rename the emoji for business marketers, the business icon, okay, and you looked at, forget about the smiley face, you looked at like the check mark, okay, or the calendar emoji, or things that are a little bit more kind of corporate, and you test it, you would see a really strong rise in performance. So you need to break out of we can't do this, and you always want it to be the first character. Don't stick the emoji at the end, because the end of your subject line is where engagement goes to die. Nobody cares what happens at the end of your subject line. And then the other thing to consider for the emoji is use it in the pre-header. The pre-header is incredibly valuable real estate, and it's another area that you could test it. So yeah, I'm on the emoji train. Are you on the emoji train is the question.
Yeah, I personally I am as well, for the reasons that you mentioned. I think that the inbox is busier than ever, louder than ever, noisier than ever. You need to do things that help you stand out, and I do think it's not about just putting random emojis in there, but when they really do tie into your subject line and really elevate, using them in a creative way that elevates that subject line or makes it more real. I do think that they can work well. And in our testing, we've also seen them outperform subject lines that don't have them. Um, I'm curious about your research division. I read somewhere that you analyze 6 billion emails a year. Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit more about how you do that, where those emails coming from, and how you manage to distill that down into learnings that can help marketers?
Yeah. So my agency, Outcome Media, we don't own any data, and we don't just send out on one platform. We work on behalf of both business and consumer clients, many of the biggest brands on the planet, and we help to manage their email campaigns, right? And so all these different marketers are constantly send out emails that we are responsible for helping them to execute on and to handle. And the cool part about what we do for a living is we get to look into all the different platforms. I mean, there's so many different sending platforms, business and consumer platforms, and we're looking at all these, real world campaigns going out. So we're seeing real stuff going out, real A/B tests going out in real time, and throughout the year, yeah, we're able to see kind of real engagement on over 6 billion email messages. What's cool is how things change all the time. People talk about email marketing, they're like, oh, some people say it's dead, right? It's a legacy channel. It's old. And the weirdest thing about email is that what we do today is very different than what we did 2 years ago. Like, for example, webinar. Okay, 2 years ago, you put webinar in the subject line, webinar : latest trends in marketing, and you get a really good engagement, a lot of people to register. It's going to be awesome. You do that today, you put webinar in the subject line, you might as well write, do not open this email. This email's terrible, right? Webinar has become, in the last 2 years, a boat anchor word, even though we're also using webinars to promote stuff. So what we've learned is that through all this data, for example, and I know I just never shut up, but let's say you're promoting a webinar, the secret sauce right now is to promote the topic and not the vehicle. To say, the 5 latest trends in email marketing. And then they open it up and it happens to be a webinar and they're like, all right, fine, I'll check it out. But to not use boat anchor words like webinar or ebook in the subject line, that's something we learned, which is a new trend, because we're always looking at the latest data. So that's what we're trying to do, is try to find the little nuggets that make a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, I love that. It's not about how you're delivering it, it's what you are delivering to them, really focusing on the topic. It's a great tip.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't have you on the Unsubscribe podcast and not ask you about unsubscribes.
Yeah.
I heard you recently say that, marketers, they shouldn't worry about unsubscribes and probably the nasty emails that come around
Right.
along with it. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, and I think, from a 30,000 foot view, in general, when you hear about email best practices from so-called email experts, of which I never proclaimed to be one, I would discount anything that you read or hear. This industry is flooded with information that's very old, and also a lot of scare tactics that frankly just aren't true, right? So, things like you can't put free in the subject line, you can't use an emoji, you'll get filtered, you go to junk folder. Garbage like that is from the year of the flood, and it's total garbage. But along the same idea is unsubscribes. Unsubscribes are very different than spam complaints. Complaints are bad. You get those, hurts deliverability, hurts your inbox, hurts your reputation. You're probably doing something wrong. Unsubscribes are not bad. When somebody unsubscribes, usually they're unsubscribing from 4 or 5 different emails at the same point. It's like when you go on a diet, right? You go on a diet, you go to your refrigerator, and you're like, all right, I'm throwing out everything. It's the same idea, right? You go to your inbox, you're like, oh my God, I can't take it. I got too much in my inbox. And then you unsubscribe from 4 things. It's not that you send out that one more email and the person's like, I hate this company, the worst company in America, take me off the list. There are a handful of those. Those people are weird and losers, and that's their problem. But the reason they're not bad is, number one, you're cleaning up your list. They're getting off your list. Ironically, in order for somebody to unsubscribe, what do they have to do? They have to open up a message and they have to click on your message. It happens to be engagement. Okay. And so it does not hurt your deliverability. If you get unsubscribed, you're not going to go in the junk folder because of it. And you should high five the person, say thanks, move on with your life, whatever. Of course, when you get the nasty unsubscribe, the nasty grams, those people are total losers. Okay. It's very important that you never let, 2 or 3 horrible people who are having a bad day dictate your marketing plans. I can't tell you how many times you'll see it, right? You get a nastygram, it floats its way up to the CEO of the company or the senior vice president, whatever. And what do marketers do? They go, oh my God, stop. We're sending too much. We got this one email from this lunatic, so we got to stop sending. That is the worst thing you could do. Okay, so don't react to that. Unsubscribes are fine. That's my soapbox.
I love it. I love it so much. I think we might have to just change the intro of this podcast to that. And no, it's true. It's funny though how those things get in your head and you need to just
Yeah.
just delete them, forget about them, move on with your life.
Yes. Yeah, it's like breaking up with somebody.
Yeah.
It didn't work. Okay. Or you know what? Life changes too, right? Like, let's say you were shopping for a new house and you signed up for all these lists, right? You signed up on Zillow and wherever, and then you buy a house and now you're still stuck on all these lists. You're unsubscribing because you own the house. You don't need the info anymore. You change. It's okay. Change is okay.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, this is good. We've got lots of tips on email marketing. And now you have the biggest email marketing event in the world, I think. Like, give us the background on that. How did that come about? I mean, there's a lot of email conferences already. Where did you think, hey, we need one more? We need one to rule them all. Yeah.
Uh, So first off, for those of you who don't know, you have to come to this year's conference because Pierce right here will be on the virtual stage and he'll be crushing it about email design. So the conference is called Guru Conference, and not to plug it, but it's guruconference.com and it's 100% free. And why did we do this? We were super frustrated in the marketplace about really good quality marketing education that was available to the masses. Right. There are some conferences out there, it costs like $1,000 to go to, and it's really hard to get that budget. Maybe they're in person. It's hard to get the travel budget. And then there are just big user conferences, which are great, but they're user conferences put on by individual companies. And we said, no, we want to create something that is for everybody, that every market on the planet can benefit from. And we don't just want to create another virtual marketing conference. We're going to make this thing fun. We're going to make it something that you want to spend these 2 days at, that you're going to be like, oh my God, I just had a really good time. And we had no idea what we were doing. So last year we launched this thing, literally never put on a conference before in our lives, virtual event. And we said, screw it, let's do it. And we launched Guru Conference and we were super stoked. We had over 13,000 marketers that jumped on board. It was a 2-day event with over 30 speakers. Pierce was there and Hanley from Marketing Profs, Damon John was there, and all these big brands were there. And people they enjoyed networking with each other, they enjoyed meeting each other, learning about the latest tools, products, whatever. And so we're going at it again. We're going to do it again. Registration's open now. And I don't have a hidden agenda. My agenda is to make education available to as many people as possible from the best minds in the world. And that's what we're trying to do. So I appreciate you bringing it up. And hopefully, the industry, gets something out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the results really speak for themselves. There's, from what I saw last year, a ton of interest from marketers, and I love. To me, one of the reasons that I was really excited to participate in it, and NAC as well, is that you do bring a good mix of really amazing content from people like Anne Hanley, but also the fun. We go back to the entertainment stuff that we talked about at the beginning. I think that, like people want to spend their time doing things that are enjoyable, and it's great to learn, but it's fun. It's even better if you can have fun while you're learning new things. And I think that combo is pretty deadly.
Yeah, we're trying right now, which you might be involved with. We're trying to test it out. I don't know if you've ever seen like on YouTube where they have the people eat the chicken wings, the celebrities. It's really hot chicken wings. And then they try to like talk through it. So we have this idea of what if we sent out like, boxes of like wings. So like, a bunch of speakers, and we were all on one session. And then we said, okay, now go and microwave them, come back. And we're going to try to have a session where we're all eating mega hot chicken wings. And I was like, this seems like a horribly great idea. So we're going to test it out first internally and see if it works, because that's what we got going on over here.
Yeah, I literally just had Indian food last night with some friends, and we were talking about those chips you can buy. It's like a chip
Yeah.
with like the hottest chip in the
Yes.
world. Oh, I'm getting nervous already, Jay,
Yeah,
just
you
thinking
should
about
be.
that.
You're like on the list that we made. We're like, all right, Pierce will
Yeah.
definitely be in on this. He'll do it. So you're screwed.
Uh, um, yeah, no, it's awesome. Really looking forward to the Guru event again this year.
Cool.
Um, just for a lot of marketers out there running events or virtual events, what would you say was kind of like your biggest learning from running your first event last year, and why do you think you got so much traction in that first year?
That's a good question, and I'm actually thinking about doing another event about virtual events for that very reason. Some things worked and some things didn't work, but I would tell you that little things make a big difference. I'll give you one example: music. Okay, I hate when you go to different events and there's like background music and it's just like, who cares? And from the outset, I'm like, I want to play really fun, like ridiculous '80s music. Like leading into my session, we played Milli Vanilli, and just ridiculous music, fun music. And everyone's like, no, no, you can't do that. You need to have a music license with all the big music companies. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? I don't know. So I stuck somebody on it, and they were like, they investigated, and it costs like $500, and you can get a music license to play whatever you want to play, at your events, pretty
Wow.
much. And so then we played all this stuff, and I can't tell you the feedback. Everyone was like, we love the music. There was such great energy, the music, whatever. And to me, I learned that little stuff is actually a big deal. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
you can't overlook any element of it because this is a human being that's spending their time, and it can't just be about the content of the session. That's really important. That's paramount. But all the surrounding stuff has got to be fun. And that's kind of where we try to look at every little thing.
Okay, now I'm curious about this music thing because
Right.
I know in the marketing departments I've worked at, I've had that exact conversation about 25 times. And it's the same thing. Everyone says, "Are we allowed to play it?" And then someone
Right.
says, there's always someone who's really a risk taker who's like,
Right.
let's just do it. And then there's someone else who's like, no, I don't
Yeah.
want to get sued by Sony or whatever. So how
Right.
how
Right.
does
Right.
that work? You get a license from one of the
Yeah.
record labels, or how does it work?
Yeah, yeah. So I've learned more about this than I want to know. So there's two organizations. One's called ASCAP, ASCAP, and the other one's called BMI. And they're two different organizations. And you apply with them, you fill out a form, and you pay some nominal fee, and you apply saying, hey, I'm putting on an event. We're not like selling the music. We're using just like a few minutes of each song, whatever, whatever. And then they get back to you and say, okay, approved. And then they have a music library of, I don't know, 30 million songs. It's not every song, but the vast majority of music with all the big people on it. And then you could search, okay, we want to play this song. And it'll say yes or no, basically, if you can. And then you can play it. And, it took us like a week or two to kind of figure that all out. But to your point, I feel like every virtual event is like, oh, we want to do it. Oh, we don't want to get sued. And then they move on to the next thing. Right.
Yeah.
And so I
Oh,
think
yeah,
it
yeah. And then
makes a
it's like,
difference.
hey, let's play some random
Right.
royalty free beat that nobody likes.
Cares about. Right. And it's just super boring. Yeah.
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 Okay, I might be
Uh,
getting into the weeds here, but did you get a license from both of these companies so that you had more
yeah.
music available? Yeah. Okay.
That's exactly
I
right.
feel
And
that blog post would blow up amongst
I
marketers.
might have to do it. No, you're
Yeah.
100% right because the little things really matter. And then we did a cool partnership this year with this tool that we found called Snapbar, which is it was pretty dope. What happened was after you register for Guru Conference, it said to enter in to win a super swag box of like Guru swag, take a selfie of yourself using this thing called Snapbar and then post it online. Okay. And then we made all these stickers and elements that you could add onto your selfie and you post it online. And we didn't know if anybody was going to do it. I don't know. It was really random. Right. And we had to like turn it off because we only bought a certain number of these snaps. Right. And within like, I don't know, the first few days, we had like 800 people that posted a snap with our image and we couldn't believe it. And it was cool because we didn't have to spend any money on marketing. All these people posted on social. So little things like that can actually take your event to the next level.
Yeah. So, funny story about that. I actually saw someone who did that on my feed, and then I was like, "Oh, cool." I didn't think that this was someone, like, she wasn't really in email. So I was like, "Oh, she's going to Guru. That's cool." And then when I registered, I saw that and I tried it out, and I what I found worked really well about that was that the filters that you could put on your image were really
Hmm.
cool. Like, they were well done. Like, if you got to the end of that and they were not compelling, I feel like you wouldn't do it. But because it made a really cool looking image, it was something that at least for me, I wanted to put that on my LinkedIn because it looked awesome. So I feel the execution is really important in that too.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I would say that across the board. And by the way, I'm plugging Knack right now, but all of our emails are being designed on the Knack platform, which has been, and I'm not just saying this because I'm staring at you, which has been incredible for my team. We're new users to the Knack platform, and it has radically simplified and actually improved our creative process. And it really goes to the point of execution of anything. I don't believe there's like a bunch of new ideas that you could just run around and come up with and you're going to hit a home run. It's really just more about, in any aspect of business or life, just executing really well on whatever it is you're going to do. And I think you'll be successful. And the Knack platform is a good example of that.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Um, all right, shifting gears a little bit here. I noticed that you have a website for kind of your own personal brand.
Right.
That has some information. You do a lot of speaking and it gives some context on how to book you. I'm
Mhm.
curious, for myself, like, I don't have a personal website. Maybe other marketers out there don't. What led you to kind of build your own? When did you do that? And kind of what were your goals around building that? And do you feel like it's worked and is doing what you want it to?
Yeah, so I do have a site. It's my full name, jschwedelson.com, separate from my different companies or whatnot. And the reason I did it was it really grew out of a newsletter that I send out called Scoop. Um, I'm a big believer in this idea of rented land versus owned land. Even though I do a lot of content, let's say on LinkedIn, I call that rented land because in any of the social media platforms, you're beholden to the algorithms. You wake up one day and LinkedIn changes what they do, and you really can't get the word out there as much as you used to. So I'm a big believer and push that you need to own your own land, and that is your email database, and then to have an email database that's not just your brand's voice, right, or your company's voice, but it has to be your voice. So that way, when you have something important to say, you have an audience to say it to. That's the right group of people. So I put a lot of energy behind growing my personal newsletter that I write myself, that I try to put out myself, my own content, because I think it's important. It's important for everybody. And I think it's also important to realize you don't need to have, thousands of subscribers. You could have 10, you could have 100, you could have 500. You grow that over time. You keep letting people know where to subscribe. And you will find over time, and it is slow pace, it takes a long time, it will become the most valuable asset that you have in terms of being able to reach out to people. And then the other thing I'll tell you, and I just go down rabbit holes, is I think it's really critical to always ask people, if you have a newsletter like that, to reply to you and to reply to every message that you get, no matter how long that takes you, because that's how you build up these connections over time. So I love having my own website. It's really about my own newsletter, and anybody that doesn't have one, start now and just do it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think, there's so many great marketers out there and they're marketing for different companies and they might, they're building the brand of a company, but to actually build your own brand where it doesn't matter where you work, what company you're in. I even think for myself, if I'm at Knack or Revenue Pulse, what's next, to have
Right.
that great continuity of your own brand too. So And I
because you don't know
also
where you're
do.
going, you know?
Yeah. Who
Right.
knows? Yeah, who
Yeah.
knows what'll happen tomorrow?
Right.
Yeah, and I do think that uh, I your newsletter. I like that you're making it very personal, right? It's not like no reply at Jay Schwedelson. You have your
Right.
actual, I think your actual email there, and you encourage people to reply to you. Very similar to what I've seen Anne Hanley does, and I think there's so
Yeah.
many benefits to that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And what I try to do in every newsletter, and Ann Hanley's newsletter is great. If you haven't subscribed, you should. Um, Daniel Murray has a great one too, like that. So does Ari Murray. There's a bunch out there that are great. What I try to do is in my newsletter, I put a bunch of tips and ideas at the start, and at the bottom, I literally talk about my personal life. Like I've written about my colonoscopy I've gotten. I'll write about the TV shows. I'll talk about the fact that every Tuesday night in my house we eat salmon and I hate it. I just try to share literally what's going on in my life to have that connection with the people that are receiving it.
Nice, nice. Not a big salmon guy, right?
I like salmon, but literally my house, it's every Tuesday night for the last, since my kids are 15 and 16, probably since they were like 4. And it's just like, I'm at work on Tuesday. I'm like, oh, what's for dinner? I'm like, oh,
you know.
salmon again. I can't take it. It's just too much.
I get that. I feel you on that one.
Yeah.
All right, this next section, rapid fire, we ask everyone on the podcast these same questions. The first one you've alluded to actually already. Ask this to everyone. Is email dead?
Yes, email's dead. We should all quit, and the industry is over. This podcast is the last time it'll ever be mentioned. It's very sad. No, email is dead for people that don't want to try new things or that want to get stuck in the past. Yes, email is dead for you. For everybody else that's actually a vibrant human being, that's an actual marketer, email is in a renaissance. It's never done better, and it's the ultimate channel as the cookie dies. So yeah, no, email's not dead.
What is one marketing trend that you would unsubscribe from?
When you get an email, and I cannot believe that this is actually a marketing thing now with the RE colon or FW colon, right? The fake reply or the fake forward. And you get that in your inbox, and they're coming from major brands now. When I see that, I want to like throw my computer in the toilet. I just cannot believe that it's like, okay, what should we put in the subject line? I go, I have a great idea. Let's put a fake reply or a fake forward. That's our strategy, is to completely fool people to opening to think they're in the middle of a conversation. If that's what you do, I want you to block me, unfriend me, disconnect me, never talk to me, because you're a loser. You have no life. Don't do that. So yeah, I don't like that. I don't know how you feel about
I'm going to admit that I have used that before.
Oh no, so we're no longer friends.
No, please don't block me though, Jay. I want to stay in touch with
All
you.
right, fine. I'll make an
But
exception.
yeah, I would say what I don't like about it is the authenticity, and that's why we don't really do it anymore. And yeah, I think that's it, right? Like I think honesty is very important, and that one did always feel like a little bit
Sketchy.
dishonest. Yeah,
Yeah,
sketch.
it's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, you talked about how you talk about your personal life and your newsletter. What do you do for fun?
That's a good question. I'm not the most exciting person on the planet. So my kids are 15 and 16, so they're both basketball players. So I'm always at a basketball game somewhere. I watch horrible reality television. I mean, when I say horrible, I've never missed a season or an episode of The Bachelor, Bachelorette, or Bachelor in Paradise. I love Love Island UK. US edition is terrible. So I spend a lot of time doing that, which is super embarrassing. And that's it. I go to bed by 10 o'clock every night. I'm super boring. What do you do? I don't know.
I also do enjoy bad reality TV. My wife and I like to watch Below Deck, which is
Oh, that's
like
a good
this
one.
show about it's super
Yes.
yachts and the cruise,
Yes.
and it just feels I love it because it's mindless. I feel like I'm on vacation. There's great food. That's the problem, though. I watch it at night and they're always serving great food, and then I eat,
Yes.
something that I shouldn't.
Yes, that happens with diners, drive-ins, and dives. I'll put that on. It's like 8:30 or whatever, and I just had salmon, so I'm starving because the salmon did nothing for me. And my wife's like, "You can't watch that because you're going to wind up eating everything in the fridge." And I'm like, "I know, I'm an idiot," but that's what
Yeah,
happens, like on a nightly basis, especially Tuesday night.
Um, who is one person that you admire in the business community and why?
Um, well, you mentioned her before. I really, I've always really liked Anne Handley. And I think that she's one of the people that got me to break out of my shell and to kind of speak like myself, in a certain way. So she's somebody that I've read. Look, I'm not a copywriter. I did horrible in English, but I've read her books about writing because, they teach me so much. So I'm a big fan of hers. I would probably put her at the top of the list. Who would you put at your list?
Yeah, Anne is awesome. Shout out to Anne. We have had Anne on the Unsubscribe podcast
Oh,
for
nice.
anybody who's listening. So definitely check that episode out. One of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one has actually ever asked me that, Jay, but since you do, he's a little bit controversial right now, but I think for what he has actually accomplished, I think I would go with Elon Musk. Just I love what he has built. Like he's one of these people who's if he says he's gonna do something, he does it. Even when it seems impossible, like launching rockets or making electric cars, or now with the AI stuff. So that's someone who I like to follow.
100%. No, I think Elon is amazing. I know he's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way with some of his, content and posts and all this different type of stuff, but his ability to do things it's inspiring. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't anybody who says
Yeah.
otherwise is just out of their mind because, like you said, he said, "I'm going to do this," and then he does it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And he went to university like 2 hours from where I am in Canada, which is pretty cool.
That is
Uh,
cool.
Other than Elon, unless you have a connection with him, Jay,
Yeah.
who else do you think we should have on the Unsubscribe podcast?
Ooh, well, you should have Daniel Murray, who I mentioned before. He is the guy behind the Marketing Millennials, which is one of my favorite pages
Oh, I
on
love that LinkedIn
yeah,
page. Yeah.
that LinkedIn page is amazing. So I would definitely have him on. Chase Diamond,
Yeah.
has he been on?
Not yet. No, we actually spoke at the same time at the Guru conference last year.
Oh, did you? Oh, yeah. He's amazing. And he's an animal on social media. I mean, you got to follow Chase Diamond, and it's Dimond, not DIA or whatever. The guy he's all about email content, and he's an animal. I don't know how he posts as much as he does. He just has another kid, a newborn. I don't know how he does it, but he's an animal. And so you should definitely have him on too.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Jay, this was a ton of fun. I'm not surprised. We really went all over the place about entertaining content, email tips. We talked a little bit about the Guru conference, how you built your personal brand, and we even talked about salmon. I think
That's
that's
right.
the first for an unsubscribed episode. So thank you so much for doing this and for all that you do. I personally love reading your tips and your content. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. This was a blast. I mean, when you could squeeze in salmon, colonoscopies, and email, then we've done something really important. So,
There we
really
go.
appreciate it. Thank you so
There's the
much.
hook for the piece. It's great. You just made my life easier. All right, Jay. Have a good one, man.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Thanks for listening to Unsubscribed, a podcast created by Knack. If you enjoyed this episode of Unsubscribed, be sure to subscribe to my podcast and leave a review on your favorite podcast player. If you have any feedback or want to chat, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or follow me on Twitter at marketing_101. Cheers.